Awesome. So with that, we'll go ahead and get going. Just some nitty-gritty details. The challenge, of course, is going to run 10 weeks. It's going to start April 16th, which is this Sunday, and run through June 24th. A week consists of Sunday to Saturday. Forecasts are due by 16Z, the day you're forecasting for. You can forecast up to almost 7 days ahead if you so desire. And if you forecast, you want to change that forecast, just issue a newer forecast, and we'll always take the forecast issued closest to 16Z for the day you're forecasting for. All forecasts are for severe weather that occurs from 19Z in the day you're forecasting for through 11:59Z the next day. We will count your top 2 scores for each week and for 6 of the 10 weeks. Now, if you forecast for 7 weeks, we'll drop your 2 lowest counting scores. We'll drop your 4 lowest counting scores if you forecast for 8 weeks, etc., going out to 10 weeks. So that's how we'll handle that. If you're part of an office team, what we'll do is we'll take the top 6 scores from forecasters in your office. That will count towards an office team score, but no more than 2 scores will count from any single forecaster. So that's why we need at least 3 people from any office to have an office score, because we can't count more than 2 scores from any single person. In terms of individual scoring, do I have an individual? Okay. Yes. So scoring is going to work. Points are awarded based on distance from the forecast point to the nearest LSR. You have the option to forecast none if you want. If what that happens, though, for you to get points on that, there would be no severe weather occurring anywhere in the country. So probably not something that you'll forecast a whole lot. The whole point, of course, is to forecast for severe weather. I think you only get about 10 points if you get none and nothing happens. But if it's the only day you can forecast, at least you get something. And then, again, all scoring is based on LSR submitted to SPC. How it works is you get a distance score, which is basically just 100 minus the distance to the closest report to your forecast point. You can then earn additional points for successful forecasts. If you're forecasting for wind or hail, you get 50 points if that report comes between 0 and 25 miles at your forecast point, 40 points if it's the closest point from between 25 and 50 miles to your forecast point. And then et cetera, out to 10 points if it's the closest point between 75 and 100 miles. Once we get outside of that 0 to 25 mile safe zone, per se, that report has to be the closest report to your point. You can also get an additional 50-point bonus if significant severe weather, wind or hail, is anywhere within that 25 miles of your point. So tornadoes, a little bit harder to forecast for. The distance scoring remains the same. It's 100 minus the distance to closest report. But if you get a successful tornado forecast, it's 100 points. And you get a little bit of a wider range to go through. It's between 0 and 35 miles from your forecast point. And then you get 60 points if it's the closest report between 35 and 50 miles, et cetera, in a similar manner to the wind and hail. And again, additionally, if you have a SIGTOR that occurs anywhere within your 35 miles of your forecast point, you get a 100-point additional bonus. So the highest score you can get for a wind or hail forecast is 200 points. The highest score you can get for a tornado forecast is 300 points. Are there any questions about scoring? Okay.
So Chris went through that a little fast. This is Steve Mullins, the other guy leading this thing. I know a couple of things that, or I know one thing specifically that everybody always forgets about is the 19Z. There's always those morning storms, and you're like, hey, there's all these FLRs right, or LSRs, excuse me, right by my point. And then we look back, and it's like, yeah, but all those are from 17 and 18Z. They don't count, so you can't cherry pick them that way. The other thing is that Chris is right about those being the 200 point and the 300 point being the max that you can get for each of those things. Some scores can get just a little bit higher than that because of what's on the screen there, the time bonus. I guess you didn't go through that yet.
No, I knew where you were going, so.
Okay. There you go. So yeah. Time bonus, you can get up to like 15.
Yeah.
So there's your real max.
All right, thanks, Steve. Steve is going to be interjecting from time to time. Steve is the coding brains behind this whole thing. I kind of manage it, and then Steve codes it up and comes up with all these cool ideas and things to show, and so we'll kind of show a lot of that later on. Yeah, what Steve was getting at is there's also a time bonus. This is mainly to help those on the West Coast who the timing of 16Z for forecast submission doesn't always work all great, but it helps for everybody. Everybody benefits. So if your forecast is issued between 1 and 4Z, you get a 15-point bonus. between 4 and 7Z, it's a 10-point bonus, and between 7 and 10Z, you get a 5-point bonus. One thing to note, if you issue a forecast at 1Z and then come back and issue a forecast at 15Z, you won't get that time bonus because we always take the forecast that you issue closest to the submission time, which is 16Z. So your total score is going to be distance score plus your additional points plus your bonus points. All right, there are some prizes involved. The highest score for each week will get a WDTD Drag Me to Storm t-shirt. The top 3 individual finishers will receive a plaque. The top 3 offices will receive a plaque, and there's well more than 10 offices, so we'll have that will definitely happen. I'm working to see if maybe we can get the top 3 individuals who participate as the top 3 offices shirts as well, but we'll see if that actually happens or not. What's the Drag Me to Storm t-shirt? This is what they look like. So some of you have seen them before. Okay, so with that, I'm going to go to the website navigation portion of this. Just note, the way you log in, and we've already had some questions of this during the test phase, is it's just your NOAA LDAP. So it's your NOAA username without the @noaa.gov, and then your NOAA email password. So I'm going to exit out of here, and I'm going to pull up that. So I've got the slide already pre-entered, and it's going to ask me for identification. So and hopefully it takes in. If for some reason you log in and it's taking a long time to log in, just click refresh. It should show up eventually. I don't know. We didn't hear too many complaints about it during the test phase, so hopefully it's going a little quicker. But what happens sometimes is that LDAP connection misses, and so you have to kind of keep firing at it and get it to connect. So if it's taking a while to log in, that's probably the issue. So this is the Forecast Challenge homepage. Any kind of notes or information we have will be in this Forecast Challenge notes box. And we'll have notes there from time to time. We may have some training highlights that we highlight there. If there's any special webinars or anything, that'll be highlighted there, that kind of thing. So over on the left-hand side, these are all the links that you'll really want to use. The first one, the easiest one, is the Submit a Forecast one. It's probably the most important one. This will bring up your entry form. What you do is you'll just go ahead and drag and find your username from this list of usernames. I believe everybody's username should be in here now, right, Steve?
Yep.
Yeah. The home office will automatically fill in, and then you can just select the day you're forecasting for. It will automatically be set to the current day. So if you want to forecast for Wednesday, you'd have to change it. These latitude and longitude boxes, you'll never have to fill in. They're automatically populated by the center of this red pin. So wherever you drag it, it will automatically pop the latitude and longitude too. And you can change the background if you want to really pinpoint and focus your point. You can change it to satellite. The really cool thing is there's these circles here. And this outer circle, that's 100 miles from your forecast point. So that's the bare minimum of where you need to report inside of to get points. And then this inner circle will change based on the report type you choose. So if you have wind, we use blue to annotate wind. So the circle will be 25 miles from your forecast point, so you can kind of see where you have a grace period to choose from. If it's hail, it'll stay at 25 miles, but it'll turn green, just to remind you that you're forecasting for hail. And then if you're forecasting for tornado, it'll expand a little bit, because that'll be 35 miles from your forecast point. And you can drag it around. You can go wherever you want, on the West Coast, etc. But wherever you point that, it will set your lat and long to. And then, of course, just type in a brief discussion. It doesn't have to be super long if you don't want to, but just explaining what your forecast thoughts are for that day, and then you click Submit, and it'll tell you that you need a discussion, and then it'll just tell you that you've got it. And you can edit your response by going back and changing your discussion.
And so as Chris said, with those circles, those inner 25-mile and 35-mile circles, I mean, as we said in the rules, if you don't have anything within those 25 miles, but like right here, he's got it as hail, but you have a hail point 50 miles, you'll get some credit for being that your closest one is there. But that's kind of what I call like the safe zone. I forget exactly what Chris called it. But if you have a hail point anywhere in that 25 miles, no matter what other points are there, you'll get credit for guessing the correct type of LSR that would occur there.
Yeah, and if it's outside of this circle, then it would have to be the closest report to your point. So if you forecast hail, there's a wind report in Fairbury, and there's a hail report out here, you wouldn't get credit for a correct forecast because the wind would be closer than the hail.
Yeah.
So we
I think the only other thing is that, like, he did the submission, and, like, no, it's not going to show up on the page right away. We still have to manually hit run all the forecasts and do that. But we do have it. If you're concerned, you can email us. But, like, you hit submit and went to that page, it said it's submitted, and we do have it.
Yeah, I have a quick question.
Sure.
So if I'm understanding this right, if you forecast hail, but you have a wind report that's closer, you do not get any credit?
No. So anywhere. So you see this inner circle here, this green circle?
Yes.
Anywhere inside of that, if you get hail anywhere inside of this circle, you get credit for that hail forecast.
Right.
Now, if let's say there's no reports inside this inner circle, then the hail report would have to be the closest report to your point for you to get the correct forecast for hail, to get the bonus points for a correct forecast. Does that make sense?
Okay, so
if you forecast, let's say you forecast hail at Concordia.
Yeah.
And then there's a wind report in Telmo, there's a tornado report in Cackley, and then there's a hail report in Bellevue. You'd still get credit for a correct hail forecast, even though these other reports are closer, because it's within that 25-mile grace range, so to speak.
Yeah, but if it's outside the circle, if hail's not the closest one, you don't get any credit.
You would get credits for, you'd get a distance credit, so it'd be 100 minus whatever the closest report is to your point.
Okay.
And then you would get, that would be your score. You wouldn't get the 50-point bonus for having hail because it's outside of this range and you had reports inside of it.
Right. Okay. I get that.
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's kind of hard for us to describe sometimes, but that's one of the biggest questions we get is, why don't I get credit for that? So it's just, we have to kind of find a score it somehow, and that's just the way we differentiate the scoring. But that's why that circle is there. That's your grace range. You can get anything within 25 miles would count as a correct forecast. Okay. Any other questions on that or anything similar? Okay. Hearing none, we will move around. After 16Z, and actually it'll be after 17Z because it takes the site updates every hour. And so usually, most of the time, we'll post the forecast between 16 and 17Z. If it's a weekend, we do have to do this manually, and that means for some of us, we have to actually come into the office to post things. So on weekends, just note that sometimes the updates will be a little bit later. And that's just because we kind of do this on our own time. We don't work weekends here. So we just get to it when we can. We try to do it as close as we can to 17Z and 10Z for the updates, but sometimes we just don't get to it. So keep that in mind. If you click on the latest forecast link, you'll get actually a list of the latest forecasts for a given day. There's a place file link here. If you click on that, it will actually take you to a GR2 analyst place file, so you can overlay the forecast for the day on your GR if you want. Note that link does change every day, unfortunately, so you'll have to grab a new place file every day.
It's not that the link changes. The URL is the same, but unfortunately, because it's behind the username and password, GR can't do that.
Okay.
So you have to save that file locally to your computer, and then it'll work.
Thanks, Steve. So that's the place file, and then you can click on the map, and the map will take you to a link of all the forecasts for a given day with the SPC threat overlaid. So in this instance, a lot of wind forecasts, and if you click on the pins, it'll give you that person's discussion. So it's a good learning tool. You can, maybe somebody forecasts in an area different from you, and you're kind of, well, why did they forecast here? You can click and read their discussion and see what their thought process was. Or you can do the same thing. Somebody else forecasts in the same spot as you. Maybe they thought of something different. So it's a good learning tool that way. And again, the background can be changed from road to satellite. Somebody forecast in the middle of Great Salt Lake. So kind of a interesting thing there. Now you want to see your score, you'll go to the latest results link. That will give you all the results. So the scores will be listed here. The distance to closest report will be displayed over here. And then again, there will be a map link. So again, you can click on the map, and it'll actually overlay. Actually, let's go with a day where we actually had severe weather. Let's go to this day. So it's very similar to the forecast map. And again, you can click on it, and you can actually see the breakdown of scores. So this person scored 99.10 points. There's a wind report 15.9 miles away, so it's 84.10 points. And then they issued an early forecast for a 15-point bonus. Their forecast wasn't correct. This was a tornado forecast. So you can kind of see the breakdown of points. So anytime you have a question about points, you can click on that, and it'll give you a breakdown of how you were scored immediately. The other fun thing is we have these hotkeys down at the bottom, and you can use those hotkeys to highlight certain things. So for instance, if you hit A, it'll add a 100-mile radius around all the LSRs. So if you're within this gray spot, you get some points. And then let's say you wanted to see if you could get a correct tornado forecast. So the T will highlight a 35-mile radius around all the tornado LSRs. So if you forecast for a tornado and you're within this red circle, you get the bonus points for having a correct tornado. Same thing, H will do the same for hail. W will do the same thing for wind. This is one of those cool things that Steve worked on. And then X will take care of the SIG hail or SIG wind reports. SIG tours we have to do manually, so just give us some time. We do go back and we look at all the survey data as it comes in, and we will manually edit your points if you got a SIG tornado report. And we also do rescore forecasts to account for late reports. So if you issue a forecast and then the LSR comes out 3 days later, you will get credit for that. We rescore up to about a week or so after a given day is how we do that. And then if you want to see the outlook, you can hit S. N just removes everything and lets you start with scratch. And if you don't like the pins and you want to go to boxes, you can hit P, and that'll change it from pin to the box, and you can just hit P to alternate back and forth there. So any questions about that or anything else to this point? Steve, did I hit that right?
Yeah, hit everything on the map right. The only other thing is you go back to the latest results.
Yeah.
And if you hover over, like, cooking upon a storm's deal there, the score. There's another breakdown there, and sometimes that will tell you, like, well, your closest tornado report there, it was within the 23, but it'll tell you even, like, it was too far away, and so you didn't get points there.
Yeah, so if we click down here, for instance, this was a tornado forecast. Their closest LSR was a hail report that was 16 miles away, so they get 83.94 points for that. The closest tornado LSR was 167 miles away, so you don't get the tornado points there. But they still got a bonus for having an early forecast, and so their total score was 98.94.
Go up to Crodcanes? I don't know what to say. Say that.
Where am I going?
Krodcanes, the fourth down on April 5th.
Fourth down. Okay.
Yeah, hover over their score.
Okay.
Yeah, see, they had the closest report outside the 35 miles. So because the tornado LSR was the closest, and that's what they forecasted, they got 60 points for, credit for that being the closest report. Whereas, like, the other guy, it's like, you got points because severe weather happened close to you, but the tornado was too far away. Just get credit for that.
Okay. All right. Moving along, if you want to see where you are in the standings, ironically, you click on the standings link, and you'll see a list of all the standings here. Your rank is on the left, your total score is kind of to the right here, and then the number of correct forecasts is over to the far right. The cool thing here is if you click on the score, you can see a graph of your counting scores for a given week. So if you want to see how your scores break down, you want to see how you can maybe improve if you're forecasting all the weeks and as you get out here, that's a way to do that. Office standings are the same over here. If you want to see how the office standing breaks down, you just left click and you get a map and breakdown of all of the scores that have counted for that office for a given week. So there's Tallahassee, there's Grand Junction, etc. So it's just kind of a way to break down things. Now we do have, what is it 15 models, Steve? Something like that? The forecaster from Tallahassee entered?
Yeah, forecaster from Tallahassee entered 15 models to do alongside all of y'all's individual forecasts.
Yeah, the models aren't going to win anything, but if you want to see how you're doing compared to the models, you can click on the model standings link that's on the left here, and it'll take you to that. And you can get a breakdown just like with an individual human forecaster. But it's just kind of an interesting way to compare and see how you're doing with the actual models.
And just for fun on the right, we organized them as the forecaster even requested by convective allowing models, the ones that aren't convective allowing, and then he has a couple of ensemble models there. The only other thing is that you see on the top it says an SPC bot. That's something that I wrote up, which just takes whatever the highest risk category is, calculates the center of that contour, I guess, kind of a polygon, but it's not a warning polygon, whatever. Just takes the center of that, and it's an automated thing. The SPC is not actually doing anything for that. So nothing, just to compare.
Okay. So moving along, the rest of this is just kind of fun thing. The standing, there's also an individual model standings link on the left here if you just want to go straight there. Standings by week if you want to see where you are in terms of the T-shirt rankings or the ranking for the week. These will change. Looks like week 1 is gone. We'll have to look at that, but that will take you there. And again, that's how that works. Model standings by week, same thing. You can see how the models did per week. And then we've got this fun little thing, weekly stats. We just calculate stats just for fun. You can see total number of forecasts, points, the average distance, score, accuracy, POD, FAR, all that fun stuff down here. And so those will update weekly. One thing I didn't mention on the results thing is we do have a closest report to date. So you can, there'll be a name over here, and whoever has the closest report to their forecast point will display under here in the upper left. Another just fun little thing that we've got there for us stat geeks. And with that, the other thing is, if you're looking for some observational model data links, these aren't anything special. They're nothing we recommend. We just compiled a list of links if you're looking for places to go to look for data. We've got them broken down here, and we probably have to go through and make sure all these are still good. But if you're looking for some ideas and places to go, this will give you that. And then from those of you who are in RAC and DLOC, we've got this all hazards decision chart. If you're looking for things to look for in terms of what you forecast for, you can click on that and get some information there. Finally, if you're confused about anything, there is a link to the rules on this page. This will take you to all the rules. You can click through, and I'll probably send out an email towards the end of the week with a link to this again, too, just as a reminder to everybody. There's a link to all the links are down here, and if you ever need to get in touch with Steve or I. One last thing, we do have a frequently asked questions page. If you have a question, you might want to just click on that real quick. We'll respond to email pretty quickly, but just a couple of questions that we've gotten somewhat frequently over the last couple of years. We've just compiled into a little document and posted it here. And with that, I think that's all I got. We are on Facebook and Twitter. There's a Facebook page if you want to join the Facebook group. I don't know if does this link take it straight to it. Looks like it might.
After you do some work.
Yeah, which I don't feel like doing that. But if you click on that link, it'll take you to the group. Twitter will give you the Twitter handle. It's @DragMeToStorm. And Steve will handle that side of things. And Steve and I kind of combine on the Facebook side of things. Let me check the PowerPoint. So we'll go back to this real quick. But again, there's the Facebook and the Twitter, Steve and I's email addresses. That's one other thing real quick. If you're wondering who's participating, as of yesterday afternoon, here's a map of all the offices that are participating in some shape or form. The offices in red have office teams. Those in the orange have 2 forecasters. Those in the lesser orange have one. So good number. I think Steve and I counted it up. We've got something like 72 offices or something like that have at least one participant. And we also have participants from several RFCs, from several headquarters, regions, CPC. Steve, am I missing anybody? There's a couple other odds and ends, I think. Yeah, NESDIS has a participant, so. I had a question. Can I go over the weekly forecast discussion and rules on participation for that? Sure. I'm not quite sure exactly what that means. Jen, are you on the line? Can you kind of clarify what you're asking here?
Yeah, it said something about that there's a weekly discussion or something that we have to participate in.
You're talking about the Walk Severe, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is the NWS wide version that we're talking about here.
Okay.
For Walk Severe, what you'll do is there's a forecast challenge debrief, and so there's I think 5 sessions like that. So you just have to register for one of those.
Okay.
And it will be similar. What we'll do is we'll go through the forecast for a given day. You'll want to make sure you forecast for the day that you attend that session.
Okay.
And then we'll go through the forecast, and we'll ask you what you guys were forecasting for and what your thoughts were.
Okay.
That's an ILT.
Okay. I thought it was for this as well. Okay.
No, yeah, we don't have any of those for this. We may at some point, but right now we don't have any scheduled.
Okay. All right. Good deal. Thank you.
Yes. And Mike asked me a question as well. If you're a RAC or WAC student, you should use a student link and check a box. So yeah, so for those of you who are enrolled in, let me go over here. So for those of you enrolled in WAC Severe and are also participating in the NWS wide version, Steve, do you know, is this up yet?
That, and then after online, yeah, the submitted forecast.
So yeah, so what you can do is as you issue your WAC Severe forecast here, there's a box. Would you like us to provide feedback? But you can also, the second box, you want this forecast to also be submitted to the NWS Forecast Challenge. So if you click yes, that will automatically go to the NWS wide version as well. So that'll allow you to apply both the forecast to both the RAC and the WAC and the NWS wide Severe Weather Forecast Challenge.
Yeah, so you always have the option if you want to submit one forecast for the WAC side of things and one for the NWS side things if you want to do different points if you want to. But if you want to do the same thing, you don't want to type up another discussion again, you can click that yes that Chris just did, submit, and it'll do both of them. At least it should. It's working when I've tested it.
It's worked so far, but if during the first week or so you do that and notice that we're not getting your forecast copied over, please let us know and we'll make sure to apply it. Any questions about anything else, NWS or, I guess, WAC related? Going once, going twice. And again, if you guys have any questions or if there's something that you'd like to see added or changed or fixed throughout the course of the challenge, please feel free to chat or email or however else you'd like to communicate with us. Steve and I check our email and things like that pretty frequently, so we're always happy to help and answer and make sure that you guys enjoy it. This is really for you guys. If nobody would participate, we wouldn't be able to do this. Especially the Weather Service wide version. So we're really excited about it. Hopefully you guys are too. And we are excited and want to thank you for participating. And feel free to spread the word if you notice an office on the map and there's you know some people there and you want to say, hey, you're close, feel free. Just make sure they get it cleared with their training officers. So, okay. With that, hearing no other questions, I guess we'll call it a wrap, and we'll see you guys throughout the challenge.